I complained that you can walk into a Walmart carrying an AK-47, not just on your back, but in your arms, in your hands, ready to use. And you can walk into a Walmart and shop that way. Mm-hmm. But if I walk in with a medieval battle axe, then I'm going to be in trouble, even if it's strapped to my back.
If you got a leather sheath on it and stuff.
Yeah, they've actually since changed the law. I am both tickled and disgusted at this. They've since changed the law that I can now carry my battle axe anywhere, just like I could a machine gun.
Are you shitting me?
That's probably got a badass, actually.
About Second Amendment auditors, and I hate to use this, and I know that this is just going to be the worst phrasing, but it fits in this instance. In this day and age, how do you feel about people who do these Second Amendment audits? Like the First Amendment audits, that's different. But when you have all of these mass shootings going on, and you have people that want to push that envelope and carry something like an assault rifle walking up and down the street, do you think that crosses a line?
Not in Texas.
No. Listen, a lot of my followers and a lot of the people I know personally that are the auditors and activists, they know how passionate I am about the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. I even right now, right behind me against the wall, I have my AR right by my door all the time, in case of a break-in, because that happens too often nowadays.
But would you go out in public with it and just walk around?
It's kind of common. It's kind of common in Texas, though, isn't it anymore?
Well, here's the funny thing. You can carry your weapon. You can now carry a weapon in Texas, concealed or open. Mm-hmm. You can have a license for either one. But when you bring it home, for whatever reason, you then have to disassemble it and put it in two different safes.
That seems odd. Yeah, look, I even said before, I think concealed carry is more dangerous. I had a concealed weapons permit as well. I carry 2 firearms. But the thing is, when you're in Texas, I'd much rather know what weapon you have. I'd rather like to know where it's at. It's on your holster. It's on your back. I'm not worried about the people that open carry. Those are not the ones that are committing the crimes. The ones that committing the crimes are the ones that have concealed guns because they usually carry the gun illegally.
Agreed. But I want to know from Black Label though, like his thoughts on. Not only like owning an assault rifle is not the issue or whatever, but do you think it's an issue when they try to get that reaction by walking up and down outside of a either on a public sidewalk or somewhere public with assault rifles strapped to themselves? I mean, like to me,
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, even Texas Sheepdog and I did that when I went down to Texas the very first time, and when I met him and we were working together. We knew what we were doing as far as like on purpose walking with that rifle on his back. And the biggest difference is that a lot of the individuals in Texas know automatically that you can get a gun in Texas. Texas is a great state to buy guns. It legit is. But a lot of people don't know that you can carry them everywhere. So what he does is he wants to educate the public to let them know that you can do this, and it's not a scary thing. You have these school shootings. It's unfortunate. My heart goes out to all those families and those individuals and the kids that had that happen. But honestly, it's like what would have happened if there was an individual or a teacher that in Texas, if this happened in Texas, which has happened before, we're armed, how fast that situation could be taken care of.
Yeah, I don't want teachers.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to arm teachers either. They're there to educate. They're not there to be police officers.
There's
we've actually gotten that argument.
Right.
We've actually gotten that argument with that if only the teachers had guns, and then obviously a Republican legislator said, well, maybe if the students had guns. Seriously.
What do you feel about that?
Yeah, show them like a school uniform. Hey, here's your Glock.
No, I don't believe the kids. No, I mean they have to be responsible. Even right now, I'm teaching my son how to properly respect the rifle. I always teach him. I always say, and this was taught to me a long time ago. Never point that rifle to something you do not intend to destroy, ever.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I teach him. And every time he looks at it, he respects it. And one day when he's ready, I'm going to let him hold that, and we're going to go to the range, and I'm going to teach him the safeties, and so that he understands it.
I mentioned earlier a battle axe. Mm-hmm. The difference between a battle axe and a gun is that the battle axe only has the strength that you put behind it. Mm-hmm. It only has the commitment that you put into it. Whereas a gun will inadvertently always give 100% every time, even if it wasn't intended.
And it's kind of hard to have accidental battle axe decapitations. You know, I mean, you with a gun, accidental discharges are quite a common.
You can be as angry as you want to. If I could be infuriated at you and swing a battle axe at your head, and I can still pull that blow, or otherwise deflect it when I realize that, hey, my heart is not really into this. But a gun doesn't have that sensibility. A gun is always going to, a gun in the hand of a 3-year-old child is going to do every bit as much damage as it would in the hands of Steven Seagal or any other, 80s.
That's why it's called the great equalizer, though, right?
Yeah.
That's why guns are an equalizer.
This is a little bit off topic, but Blacklab, what are your thoughts on more restrictions on guns? Do you think that we as a country need to kind of look at our gun laws now, or do you think they're okay, or what's your thoughts?
Honestly think the gun laws that we have are absolutely fine the way it is. I think it has to do with individuals who might have a mental issue.
Well, now you're going against the president.
No, I know, and I don't support him 100%. There are some things about him I like, and there's some things that I don't. That happens, with any president that we have. But I think that the gun laws and the things that we have now are perfectly fine the way it is. It's just, I think it's the education of that needs to be taught to the young kids nowadays. A lot of kids, they watch too many movies and they think that it's cool, and that's not what it's about. A lot of these kids now.
I'm sorry. I spent a lot of my time in Arizona, and we always had an open carry law. Like, since Wyatt Earp, we've always had an open carry law in Arizona. And so you automatically have this right to carry a firearm out in the open. You don't have to keep it. As a matter of fact, it was illegal to conceal it. Mm-hmm. You had to have it where everyone could see it. You still couldn't wear it into a government building because the government is smarter than that. And you still can't wear it into a bar because obvious reasons. But you could wear it pretty much anywhere else. The thing is, if you have not just a felony conviction, but if you have multiple, I think it was 3 domestic violence calls, you would lose your right to carry that firearm. Mm-hmm. And if you were caught with the firearm, you would be arrested on the crime of intent to commit a felony just for having it.
Mm-hmm. That's actually not a bad idea, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need tougher legislation, though. I agree with CopWatch that I think the key is education. I'm a firm advocate. If you own a firearm, you better know everything there is to know about that weapon. You better know how to take care of it, and better damn well know the 5 rules of safety, right?
When my dad
education
died,
is key.
When my dad died, he left an arsenal. I mean, literally an arsenal to his 3 sons. But I could, because of the executor of the will, I couldn't collect any of the handguns until I passed something equivalent to a driver's license test. Yes. I had to be able to show that I had responsibility to own any of these handguns. And while I never bothered to take it because honestly it wasn't that big a deal to me that I have handguns, and not even his, I got his shotguns. Those were the things that I actually liked that he had. But I hope you understand what I mean. I mean, I would like to see legislation have something to do with, the training.
That's fine.
The use of firearms. So you're licensed to have this.
Yeah, that's part of the education.
As far as
I don't
gun
mind
legislation. I do not agree with my European friends who obviously have a very different take on this.
Right.
Who say that this should all be automatically banned. Matter of fact, one of the things that made me proud to be an American was when I was a teenager. I remember being in Las Vegas, Nevada, and somebody had a half track. You guys know what a half track is? The front tires are regular tires, but the back are tank treads.
Right.
And it had a dual barrel 20 millimeter mounted machine gun on the back of it, and it had a for sale sign in the window.
That's awesome.
I'm so glad to live in America where I can buy something ridiculously overkill like this.
The thing is, though, like I don't mind even the what you were just talking about, the rule of, because we had Scientist Mail on a couple weeks ago, and we had the Second Amendment debate where we had one side saying we needed stricter gun laws, one side saying we didn't. But she laid out a statistic, and I can't for the life of me remember what it is, but there was a certain percentage of, I think it was like 80%, wasn't it, Steve, that of females that get killed with
I
the
don't
guns in their house in domestic violence situations.
I love Mel, but I don't know if she really had the data to back up a lot of her stats in that particular.
Well, I think she did. She quoted that. She quoted that statistic. I remember that. But if you have 3 domestic calls out, I don't think it's that outrageous to say that you can't have a firearm. That because if it's going to be used anywhere, it's going to be used in a house where you get something like that happen.
That is the sad fact of the matter. I mean, most of the time, the guns that we buy to protect our family are the guns that end up killing our family.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't mind people losing their rights over certain things. I mean, a right is a social contract you have with the state and the government, and those things are not inalienable. I mean, if you commit a felony, you lose the right to vote. It's not something that
I'm glad you put it that way, because the people I argue with all day, every day, tell me that rights are given by God.
Bullshit.
Which makes me confused. Is it why is Arabic women didn't have the right to vote?
No, a right is a social contract. You're saying that I'm going to abide by certain conditions to have this right, and the right to have a firearm is that you're going to abide by the proper use of it, and you can lose those things. It's like, again, the right to vote is given up when you become a felony. There are rights that can be lost.
So I've said as a kid, ever since I was a child, I said, that rights are established by the government. Mm-hmm. They are granted or removed by your government.
Of course.
What I find interesting? Here's what I find interesting. And then there was one of the individuals in the chat, but it looks like Denise Lynn made a very good point. Illinois has very strict gun laws, but yet they have the most shootings across the United States. If you tally them up, there's a lot of people dying in Chicago, and they have
60 people died in a weekend in Chicago.
Right.
That's because Indiana doesn't have strict gun laws, and they're 50 miles away.
I mean, in Texas, if you go out and commit a home robbery, you're literally taking your life in your hands, because I guarantee you the odds are much higher than it is in many other places that you're going to get your ass blown away. Correct?
Oh, sure, sure. But that's a good segue into the losing your rights. Black Label, when you said earlier that you did an audit on your own police station, and oftentimes I wonder, because this is the thing that you don't see on these videos. What's the aftermath like? Is there any type of retaliation from these police stations or individual officers themselves, or do they stalk you out waiting for you to leave the house and all this other kind of stuff?
I've never seen black suburban vehicles ever parked outside my house at all, but it could happen.
They've got it better at hiding, actually. By the way, just to let you know, they're there.
Yeah,
they just got it better at hiding. They do.
Yeah. No, when I did my audit with that, the individual seemed interested to tell me the history of the department and that sort of thing. So when you have a good interaction, I don't see that them coming and following you because you seem strange or weird. I don't think that's what it is. I think what happens is that when you run into those cops that have these big egos and they just want to, I don't know, make an arrest for themselves or do something. It could possibly be that they do follow you around to see if you would end up somehow violating whatever law that they can get you on. Denise Lynn is a good example for because I know she's an activist as well, and she has done this stuff a lot in Chicago, where she would do an audit at the police station at night. And when she starts to walk away, they'll start following her in a vehicle, and she'll stay online to make sure that she's safe and that they don't. But I do see that, and I do see sometimes retaliation does happen as far as coming onto your channels and start creating havoc and creating I don't know, the troll type responses saying you guys are idiots, or it just creates all kinds of division.
Well, like you said,
I would like to think that people are smart enough now, or that they've been watching the political situation over the last couple of years in this country, and know that you don't just stick a cattle prod in somebody's ass and not expect some kind of a retaliation.
Yeah, you're dealing with people that have egos. Not all of them. I mean, obviously, not all cops are the same. I really am pro police. I mean, who are you going to call when you're in danger? You're not going to call the local crackhead, right?
Well, here's the problem with that, though. There's a problem with what I'm saying. I'm just going to say this. I hear that a lot with cops. When they come into the forums and they say, who are you going to call when you need help, or who's that? The response time that it takes for a police officer to get to your house if there's a home invasion, it's too long.
No, it depends when you're at. I got to tell you, I mean, I've had the sheriffs over here about 7 times because of a psychopath of the roommate, and they were sometimes here within 5 minutes. So it really depends, and it depends on the what's happening. But still, you're still going to go to cops, right? I mean, cops are still there.
No, I got to agree with Black Label here. I learned as a young man, and maybe you've already gotten the idea that my youth was somewhat jaded in this, but